What's up, wall fans, common sensors, podcast consumers, and of course, social media world? Welcome to the video stream for episode 47 of Common Sense Sundays with Go Tell It to the Wall, hosted by me, of course, your absolute favorite podcast host, the one and only Sean O'Rourke. I know I have said this before episodes previously, and it's been accurate before. It is beyond accurate today. I'm exhausted. I blame a tiny human that has been running around my house for the past 4 years, and sometimes that exhaustion just catches up with you. So we'll get into some of that in this episode, but please bear with me. Still going to have a lot of the great common sense. We've got some interesting entertainment news, as well as a couple of other great things to discuss. And, of course, it is still Mental Health Awareness Month, so we will, as we always do, spend some time on that. But, of course, more importantly, this month, because May is Mental Health Awareness Month. All right. All that being said, let's get right into episode 47.
1, 2, 3, go tell it to the wall. Tell it to the wall. Go tell it to the wall. Tell it to the wall.
All right, wall fans, common sensors, podcast consumers. Welcome to episode 47 of Common Sense Sundays with Go Tell It to the Wall. I am, of course, your absolute favorite podcast host, the one and only Sean O'Rourke, and we've got an action-packed, common sense-filled episode for you today. But we always kick things off with our social plugs. You can keep up with us during episodes, for episodes, after episodes, whenever you so please, and you can do that in multiple locations. One of those would be facebook.com/Go Tell It to the Wall. That's right, facebook.com/Go Tell It to the Wall. That's our official Facebook page, obviously. Nobody else out there using the /Go Tell It to the Wall, so you shouldn't have any issues finding that one. Please follow us on Facebook. Going to keep you up to date on all new episodes, new content, all kinds of great stuff on that Facebook page. And, of course, YouTube. That is where all of our videos go. Some of the videos go up on Facebook, but all of our videos go up on YouTube. So if you are someone that likes to watch the video content, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Head on over to YouTube, search Go Tell It to the Wall, subscribe. You will see my face. You'll see our logo. It's pretty easy to find once you do a little searching within YouTube there. Like I said, there's no other Go Tell It to the Walls out there. I list these things off, but you can really Google a lot of times, and it's going to take you straight to things. And, of course, my own personal Instagram account, which is at SoCalSean, SoCalSean. Follow on there for all kinds of great photo content. Not everything on there is Go Tell It to the Wall or Common Sense Sunday related, but it is all Sean O'Rourke related. So follow me if you're an Instagram user. And most importantly, all encompassing of those things I just mentioned would be SeanO'RourkeLive.com. That's right, SeanO'RourkeLive.com. Bookmark that site. Check back often. That is your one-stop shop for everything that is Go Tell It to the Wall, Common Sense Sundays, and, of course, Sean O'Rourke Live. And it's even going to give you links to those things I just mentioned, as well as exclusive photos, blog posts, videos, all kinds of good stuff. And you will find links to our Patreon campaign as well as our merch website. Patreon, for those of you not familiar, it is a way for you to support broadcasters, artists, musicians, all kinds of people out there on Patreon. So even if you're not supporting us, support some other artists out there that are creating great content for you. And the merch site, that's a win-win because you're spending money, but you're also getting a little something back. Get yourself a t-shirt, get yourself a mug, all kinds of great stuff on the merch site, and you link that directly from SeanO'RourkeLive.com. All right, we're going to have some funkies. Before I get into our digital trends this week, we are going to have some funky scheduling coming up soon. It's been a while because the world has been shut down, but we are looking at a couple of scheduling conflicts over the next month or so. We should be okay for next week's episode, but the following couple weeks after that, we may have some scheduling conflicts and miss an episode or two, so keep that in mind. Some new projects have come up and have taken priority, so we may have a couple conflicts over the first half of June. So just keep that in mind, and I'll keep everyone updated. You'll be able to see posts on the Facebook page and other platforms as well. It's just going to be a matter of may not be able to get into the studio for actual full episodes because of some scheduling conflicts and some other projects that I'm working on. Kind of on my end. Some Go Tell It to the Wall related, but some not Go Tell It to the Wall related. This is the world opening back up and things happening again, so unfortunately we will occasionally run into scheduling conflicts, not ones that are just based on Mother's Day or the Super Bowl or holidays, because we always take those holiday breaks anyway. So just keep that in mind. And make sure you're on the Facebook page, because that's going to keep you up to date on everything and anything that is Go Tell It to the Wall and Common Sense Sundays. All right, digital trends. I can feel myself, and we'll get into that on parenting. And mental. I can feel myself just being a little slower today. I said it at the beginning of the video feed, so apologies if you're hearing it again or you're seeing it again because you're watching the video feed. But they got a tiny human running around my house and has not made sleep or restfulness very easy lately. So I can feel myself moving slower, which sometimes it's good because sometimes I move faster. My mouth is moving faster than my brain, so sometimes it comes out good. But this one might be a little bit too much exhaustion. Should probably have some coffee in my my Go Tell It to the Wall mug instead of just water. But we will get through. Like I said, digital trends. Ted Cruz. This guy's just a walking Twitter joke. He recently shared or tweeted, put out a tweet, and it compared a Russian military propaganda video to a current U.S. military video, which is uplifting females in the military, specifically veterans, I believe. I honestly, it was just more of this shock of what I was seeing. And I have no interest in following Ted Cruz, but when it trends, these things come up, and he's literally making fun of the U.S. military here. We have a United States senator who is putting out into the public his disdain, essentially, for the U.S. military. And maybe disdain is a strong word, but he's making fun of the U.S. military. And not only that, but propping up the Russian military. I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but we're not the best of friends with Russia as a country. We're not. And if you ask me, I have a lot of strong words about Russia that I will save for another time that's not on this podcast. But the main thing here with Ted Cruz is the man is unhinged. Nothing he does makes sense. If you think it makes sense, you're listening to the wrong podcast. I mean, there's the Venn diagram of Ted Cruz supporters and Go Tell It to the Wall listeners and or supporters. They are two separate circles. It doesn't work that way. But it really not even got me thinking, but my first thought after the shock of whoa, okay, we're tweeting out Russian military propaganda videos. So that's a thing we do now, apparently, as a U.S. senator. Cool. That's great. But the interesting thing is the Venn diagram of Ted Cruz himself and other people who like to say things along the lines of, if you don't like it, get out. That's one circle. Ted Cruz is a walking, if you don't like it, get out. And it's pretty simple, Teddy. Pretty simple. You're free to go to Russia. I'm sure Putin would love to have you. Could use a new lapdog. And that he doesn't have an orange lapdog over there anymore. So it's just astounding to me what we let politicians get away with. And granted, I know people were on him about it, but he's still a politician. It's absolutely astounding. And especially politicians on one side of the aisle, the madness that comes out of there. It's really astounding. We have people on one side who believe in who like to share Russian propaganda videos. Also people who believe in Jewish space lasers, as well as pedophiles. And that's just scratching the surface. So maybe, if you're supporting these things, maybe step back and take a second and be like, oh, is this a good thing? Probably not. Oh, and speaking of ridiculousness on social media, and I'm not talking about the MTV show Ridiculousness, talking about actual ridiculousness. This one had to do with TikTok. You might have heard of this if you're in the Southern California area. This started unfolding yesterday in Huntington Beach, California. And apparently a TikTok trend had started with the hashtag Adrian's Kickback. Who even knows if there's a person named Adrian? I doubt it. But what happened was hundreds of teenagers descended upon Huntington Beach here. If you're not familiar with Southern California, Huntington Beach is in Orange County. It's between Los Angeles and San Diego. And no offense, I enjoy Huntington Beach. I like Huntington Beach. There's nothing against the area of Huntington Beach. I have friends that live in and around Huntington Beach. However, it's pretty widely known to people in Southern California that Huntington Beach is essentially the Florida of Southern California. And no, I can poke fun at Florida. I was born there, and people tend to forget that. But it is a bit of the Florida of California. And here we have a great example of that because hundreds of teenagers, and from what I could see on videos and also what I was reading is teens actually traveled from out of town to come to Huntington Beach and go to this huge party, which ended up just being kids, essentially a roving mob of kids. And I don't mean mob, I don't know that their intention was to destroy things. Who knows? Huge crowds of kids just roving the streets in Huntington Beach. And it did get destructive at one point because some of the videos I saw, they were throwing fireworks into crowds of people. And I'm not yes, I get it. I was a young adolescent male at one time. I'm not talking like the little tiny fire that you light and you throw. Yeah, ha 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 ha. No. They were throwing like the big professional ones that explode into smoke and sparks and colors and stuff right next to people. I can tell you from personal experience, not because I was doing dumb things, but I found myself next to somebody doing a dumb thing years ago on the 4th of July. That's not fun. When it comes flying by your head and you're running, it's not fun. Not fun. So, of course, this is going on in Huntington Beach. Hundreds of kids. And the police actually had to enact a curfew down there in Huntington Beach, which started last night and it extends through tomorrow morning, some Monday morning here in Huntington Beach. Just the thing is, with digital trends and stuff, this has been the bread and butter of Go Tell Us the Wall for almost 5 years. We've talked about challenges and everything else. It's really getting out of hand at this point. Really is getting out of hand. The kind of crowds that can be generated from silly little hashtags on a social platform. Now, I haven't had any kind of confirmation that kids were traveling from out of town, but that seemed to be the consensus. Kids were getting on airplanes to go to Huntington Beach. And maybe not all of them were looking to cause trouble. But a lot of them found themselves causing trouble down there in Huntington Beach. So use some common sense out there. Let's maybe take it back a little bit. I know we are seeing that light at the end of the tunnel. We're still in a It's not all better yet. Not all better yet. Saw some clips in Arizona there, too, because the Lakers are... This is not even necessarily sports related, but the Lakers are playing in the playoffs out there in Arizona. And I saw a couple of clips of videos where Lakers, and it actually seemed somewhat good-natured, like not really malicious, like, hey, I'm going to fight you, but getting in each other's faces about like, oh, Suns, oh, Lakers. And it's like, do we really need to do this, guys? Like, let's use some extra caution. Fuck them kids, just like I've been saying. I don't care. Oh, we're all vaccinated. Kids aren't vaccinated, people. Come on now. Oh, man. I got to tell you. This isn't even news to anybody out there. Bugs. Specifically cicadas. To everybody on the East Coast, we're well aware that you have a large brood of cicadas coming out of the ground. Not going to explain what cicadas are. I'm very familiar with the sound. I spent many a summer in the Chicago area. I never had to deal with the massive amounts of them coming out. You just hear them in the trees. Was never actually in Chicago for one of the big broods. But bottom line is, we know this is happening. And you always hear a lot of stuff, like it'll trend. And what happens is everyone in Southern California especially, but California kind of as a whole, when an earthquake happens, everybody's like, earthquake! And they have something to, like, I didn't feel it, or, oh my gosh, that was actually an earthquake, whatever it might be, or rain. You get made fun of for, like, rain. Oh, everybody's posting about rain in Southern California or in California. Yeah, so East Coast, we get it. There's some bugs. My entire social feeds are filled with videos and photos of these big bugs. We get it. And it's fine if you want to post what you want, but it's like, that's what's trending on the digital platforms right now is bugs. That's the biggest trend right now. Not even Ted Cruz sharing Russian propaganda can beat out bugs. I'm curious if anybody out there comment after you listen, and if anybody out there actually eats them. I learned, oh my gosh, like 15 plus years ago, that people actually eat them. I'm not eating any bugs. I don't care. But I'd be curious if any listeners out there actually eat the cicadas. Not everyone likes bugs, people. I really don't like bugs. Not a fan of bugs at all. But that's okay. I'll just avoid the social platforms until these bugs go away from back there on the East Coast. All right, one more thing on digital trends I want to talk about. This came up, and I'm all for the fun. And here's the other funny thing. Is Twitter and other social platforms, but especially Twitter, can get crazy, like the Ted Cruz stuff, or political stuff, and things will get serious. You see serious like debates on there, and people going at it with each other, and I'm going to block you, and all this other stuff. And then you also have the hard-hitting questions and debates that come up, such as, who is the best Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle? This actually came up from The Ringer in the past couple days. Mad respect to The Ringer. If you've listened to the podcast for a long time, you know I'm a Bill Simmons fan. And that would be his company. But they posed this to Twitter users. And of course, the debate raged on. And I'm all for fun debates. So don't get me wrong in the way that let it rage on. Do it. I have no problem with that. However, some of these debates really come down to such a subjective topic that you're just setting people up to fight. There's no objectiveness, and there's always debates like, who's the best superhero? Who's the, blah, blah, blah. And with something, especially like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or a lot of times with superheroes, if you're a comic fan, you have your favorite superhero. If you're of a certain age, like myself and many others out there, you have your favorite Ninja Turtle. You've had your favorite Ninja Turtle since the 80s. And it's not so much a question of which one is the best. It's really, which one is your favorite? So I'm all for having fun, but these, sometimes it's just too subjective, because it's, what are you backing it up with? We can sit here and argue about their colors of their headbands, weapons and everything. It's like, well, they're cartoon characters, so that's where we are. I'm all for it, except for the fact that I don't see where the debate happens. It's more of like, well, I love Donatello, I love Leonardo, and it's like, well, here we are. But I will say, if there is a correct answer, the answer is Michelangelo. Just in case you were wondering. Now, obviously, I'm kidding. That's my favorite. I got Michelangelo figures back here on the shelf behind me. You can't actually see them on the video feed. I think if you zoom in on some of the photos, the still photos that go up, you can actually see them back there because they're on the shelf behind me. All right, COVID updates. Oh boy, we actually got some. I know we're continually getting good news with some bad news, peppered in there. And this one is actually, and for me personally, I was like, perfect. Because unless you've been living under a rock, you know that India is really getting hit bad right now. They have a certain variant over there that has hit them hard. That, plus the lack of access to vaccines, has really put them in a tough place. But there was a study done recently, and that study found that the Pfizer vaccine is actually effective against the Indian variants. And like I said, this is great news given how bad the variant has become in India. Now, I mentioned this to my wife this morning. She goes, well, what about Moderna? And I was like, well, I didn't continue looking. I said, sweet, I got Pfizer. I should be okay against the Indian variant. So I'm sure they're testing Moderna, and you can probably easily Google that. But no, if you have the Pfizer vaccine, that will be effective against the variants that are coming out of India. And really, I hate the term "my thoughts are with," but it really is just you can't know about that and just kind of sit back and be like, well, I mean, there's nothing I can do. What am I going to do? Send them some vaccines? And I laugh, but I don't mean to laugh. We just hopefully they can come out on the other side of this, because it seems brutal what's going on over there. And it's kind of wild because if in the U.S., like during the height of the pandemic, you could see how wealthy people were able to kind of cope a little better. The orange one he caught it and had the best medical care on the face of the earth. We're finding in India it doesn't matter. Just everybody's on their own, there's just not enough resources. So hopefully we will, and eventually we will, but hopefully sooner than later see a turn in that, and India starting to get back on its feet. And every country's had devastating not every, but many countries have had devastating periods throughout. I mean, remember Italy a year ago, it was brutal there. So hopefully that will take a turn at some point. But of course, we do have areas where, and obviously India, but they're doing what they can. We have areas where people maybe aren't doing everything they can. And if you follow sports at all, professional sports, you know that we've had a couple, not huge outbreaks like we did about a year ago with certain teams, professional teams, but we're still having outbreaks within professional teams. Specifically, the Yankees have had a bit of an outbreak. The Seattle Mariners have had some positive tests. Those are both baseball teams, for those of you who are unaware, and they're actually really worried about a spread there within the Seattle Mariners organization. And there was even a guy on the Los Angeles Lakers, the basketball team, that had to sit out for health and safety reasons. That's what they're calling it, when it doesn't necessarily mean somebody has a positive test. It means that they were possibly exposed to somebody that was positive. So it's kind of it's an interesting thing to follow, even if you're not into sports. Just the way that the precautions they're using, and especially city to city, team to team, and how they are tracing all of those things. The interesting thing here is most professional sports organizations, you have baseball, hockey, and football's not playing right now, but football and basketball, they have enacted, oh my gosh, they like ways to motivate people and teams to actually get vaccinated. And what it is there's less precautions enacted if you get 85% of your team vaccinated. But what we're finding out is that there are plenty of these professional athletes that don't want to be vaccinated. That's coming to light, and it's all confidential, is the thing. So we don't actually know. We kind of know numbers for certain teams. Like when the news came out of Seattle, they were like, yeah, we're at like 50% vaccinated, and some teams are way over that threshold. And the thing is, we know that a lot of this is people and professional athletes refusing to get the vaccine. I'm not going to sit here and say that the vaccine should be required for everybody on the face of the earth. I'm all for the vaccine needs to be required for you to attend certain things, certain events, go certain places, travel to certain countries. I'm all for that. But I don't think anyone should be held down and forced to get. I think everybody on the face of the earth that is eligible should get it. But I don't believe in holding someone down and giving them the vaccine. Now, that being said, I think professional athletes should be held to a higher standard when it comes to the vaccine. And there's a lot of layers to that. One of them would be setting the example of, hey, I have gotten the vaccine. We've seen artists and the president, other politicians have done this, and they've put out photos of themselves. And we know that there's politicians that have gotten the vaccine and not encouraged others to get the vaccine. But as professional athletes, it is one thing to set an example. It's also an entirely other thing to know that what you're doing is you are traveling from place to place as a professional athlete, city to city as a professional athlete. Some of these teams are traveling country to country. The National Hockey League has teams in Canada and in the United States, country to country travel, in between countries. And then on top of that, they are playing a sport. Now, baseball being a little bit different, but you're still near people. But let's talk about basketball. It's 10 dudes on a basketball court at a given time, and you have about 15 players on each team. So you're talking up to 30 guys rotating in and out, wearing shorts and a tank top, running into each other and sweating all over each other, licking their hands and touching the ball and everything else, and then traveling city to city. If anybody ever should be forced, and I'm not saying they should be forced to get a vaccination, it is professional athletes. And maybe not even forced to get it, but not able to play and travel until they've gotten the vaccination. You're not going to change my mind on that. And I'm not going to argue with somebody that doesn't think that's right. But like I said, they're traveling around, spreading. That's the thing. I'm not going to, I'm not going to get upset about a guy that lives out in the middle of nowhere by himself and raises cows not wanting to get a vaccine. But you bet your ass I'm going to get upset about people flying around the country and going place to place to place and then running into each other and sweating on each other and doing all these other things. That's just common sense. It is. So hopefully we're going to move past this. But who knows? Who knows? That's the other one. Golf's going on right now. I think golf can get away with. You're outside as long as golfers they're really not interacting. Like baseball, you got to interact a little bit, but like golfers, you're not even using the same equipment. Like in baseball, you're not all up in each other's business, but everyone's touching the same baseball. I mean, they get rotated out. I don't want to get into semantics on that, but you get what I'm saying. There's a new thing that has come to light over the past couple of months because of COVID. And that is college students actually exploring and bringing about lawsuits against their respective colleges because they paid full tuition for remote learning. To an extent, I kind of get this. But I will point out to anyone out there that was fortunate enough to not have to put themselves through school the way I did, and most people out there do by getting grants and student loans. Here's the thing, is if colleges had backed down off of that and had either closed down or said, no, this is different, this isn't the same as learning, that would have affected people's financial aid. And for those of you, again, out there that were lucky enough to not need financial aid, your financial aid a lot of times doesn't just cover your tuition. It covers your living expenses so that you can pay rent and go to college. So I understand people being upset. But let's think of others. Did you still learn? Did you still get a grade? Is your degree still going to say USC or Stanford? Yeah. And for those of you out there still in college, here's the thing. Here's a little secret that not everyone tells you. When you go in for interviews for a job, most times they don't give a shit what your grades were in college. Let's say you just finished school like this year, college this year. They're not going to go, oh, but you had that year of remote learning. I don't know. It's not going to happen. They're just going to see that degree. That's how it works. And from the little bit of research I've done, it looks like students don't have a leg to stand on here. So none of these are probably, going to proceed at all. But it's an interesting little tidbit that has come out of this. And like I said, having been on financial aid and putting myself through college, I'm on one side of that, but I do understand that it's not the same. I do. But just keep in mind, you're paying money and you're going to sit in classes for a piece of paper, and nobody, once you get hired and they're like, oh, you have a degree, that's fine. And a lot of companies don't even necessarily care about your degree. Like I don't know what the exact percentage is, but most people don't actually work in the industry for which they got their degree. I'm close, but even I have a film degree. I don't work in film. I work in entertainment, so there's a bit of a crossover. But I know lots of people who don't work in the industry of their given degree. And we have news out of California. California, it looks like, is going to fully reopen on June 15th, which is interesting. And when I saw that, in my head, I saw Samuel L. Jackson in Jurassic Park with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth going, hold on to your butts. We'll see how that goes. Man. All right, mental health. It is still Mental Health Awareness Month. May every year is Mental Health Awareness Month. I am a little bit too exhausted today to fully give, I don't even know, my thoughts on mental health and mental illness right now. I've been, and my wife is making a lot of noise in the kitchen for some reason. I've been getting hit by it bad the past few days. And it comes and goes, but today I woke up exhausted. And part of that was, I'll talk about it in parenting, what part of that was. But another part of it is just the physical aspect of mental illness, which those are two things I just want to remind everyone, especially with it being May, but just a general reminder. You need to listen to your body a lot of times. Even if you don't deal with a mental illness, you could still have physical effects from your mental health. That's something that hits me immensely at times. I will be just completely incapacitated when I have a really bad panic attack sometimes, and it affects me physically, like to the point where it is very, very difficult to move. I'm not fully in that right now, but that's been me a little bit the past, like, not even full day. Kind of off and on the past week, but this morning I was like done. I didn't even want to get out of bed. It was one of those things. And honestly, I was very reluctant to come in here, but I wanted to get some more episodes in, especially knowing that we have some scheduling conflicts coming up, and we already missed one for Mother's Day this month, and because it's Mental Health Awareness Month. So this is just a reminder to listen to your body. Sometimes your body is physically telling you something that you need. And it's not just as simple as like hydrating. Sometimes you need a little more sleep. Sometimes you just need to rest your mind. You need to turn off your mind for a little while. For me, that like it's silly television. A lot of times, I'll turn off my mind. Obviously music, but even with music for me, the mind keeps going. So find whatever it is that's going to kind of help you in that respect. And at the same time, lean on your community. That's something we're still learning in the mental health industry when it comes to mental illness and mental health. Is when we were younger, depending on your age, and even as I was getting to be an adult, it was always self-care. You got to take care of yourself, self-care, And I've said it plenty of times before that you should take care of yourself and no self-care, and that really goes along with if you feel the physical effects of it, take a break. But at the same time, know that there's a lot to community care. There's such a cliche saying, it takes a village, and it really does. Find your village, find your community, and lean on it without being draining to other people, but lean on them, whoever that may be. So take care of yourselves, Wall fans, because it's been a year, and everybody's moving at their own speed, and it's a little different for everybody. So just pay attention to yourself and what your body needs and what your mind needs, especially if you're having a rough time. All right, parenting. As I mentioned, I'm exhausted because I got a tiny human running around going crazy. And we're 4 years old. I think I've mentioned this. 4-year-olds, like 2 and 3-year-olds have nothing on a 4-year-old. Like they say 3-nager. No, it's 4-nager. Like 4 going on 16. It's kind of wild. But we're doing the whole fun where like sleeping is kind of a gamble right now. There's excuses. I don't want to go to bed, or it's, my favorite lately is I'm so cold. We live in Los Angeles. It's 75 degrees outside. What do you mean you're cold? But that's the joys of a 4-year-old. So I want to share this one. And I will say, so let me back that up a little bit. As challenging as it's been, there's a lot of reward to a 4-year-old. There's reward overall to having kids. But I will say, yesterday was one of those examples where we kind of had both sides of it. The Bomb Pops had their live stream, their Death in Venice stream that came out. So I put it on the deck, the big TV on the deck. I barbecued. My sis Laura came over because we do the concerts together. And my kid she's dancing on the deck, having a grand old time, just loving it. She loves the Bomb Pops. Loves. I've mentioned that many times on this podcast. My kid loves the Bomb Pops. Just like music videos, especially Jen and Polly, like loves them. So having a great time. But then, of course, that can just change at the drop of a hat. And so toward the end of it, when we're wrapping up everything, I'm cleaning up outside, she's running around, takes a big spill, scrapes up her knees in her hand. And like her knees were just a little bit scraped up, but she really scraped up the palm of her hand where she caught herself, So that's a whole thing. Got to get it cleaned and stuff, and my wife's, trying to get it cleaned, and I'm unwrapping Band-Aids and stuff, and it wasn't even really like a need Band-Aid thing, but it's on her hand, so she wants the Band-Aid and everything else. We're cleaning it out, and 4-year-olds are so independent, she didn't want it cleaned, and it's like, no, you got to clean the damn cut. It's a whole big thing, like ridiculousness. And then on top of that, they're at the age where I think they get a little embarrassed and surprised when these things happen, so you're dealing with that on top of everything else when it comes to her falling. But then it just got, calmed her down. Hey, let's watch Frozen, get her calmed down. And she actually was okay going to bed, wasn't a big deal, and we had one of those okay nights. But, my wife and I go to bed a couple hours later, and I'm kind of tossing and turning at 3 a.m. because I'm having trouble sleeping last night anyway. And I hear a little noise, and I look over, for those of you that aren't parents or, maybe you were parents many moons ago, they make the baby monitors with a screen now. So they got a little video of the baby, and she's 4. She's a toddler. But I hear, and I'm like, what's going on? So I roll over, and my wife's kind of half asleep, and I was like, it monitors on her side of the bed. I'm like, I'll grab see what's going on. So she picks it up. She's like, I don't know. She's sitting up looking around for something. I'm like, oh God. All right. And I start to go in there, and my wife's like, no. I'll go and see what's going on. So she goes in there, and I can hear them talking. I'm like, what is going on? And sure enough, before I fully get into the room, I can hear that they're looking for the Band-Aid that was on her hand. I'm like, oh God. Okay. And that's why she was sitting up in bed. She's looking for the Band-Aid for her hand. 3 o'clock in the morning. Like 3:15. So then she gets out of the bed, and she's standing there, and my wife starts taking apart the bed, like not the sheets off, but she's blanket, a couple stuffed animals, and she's looking in the bed because my kid needs this Band-Aid now. She's freaking out about not having the Band-Aid. So I go to grab her and give her a little hug and a cuddle, and I look down, I'm like, hey guys, what's this? Band-Aid is stuck on the front of her pajama top. Just stuck there. Well, at least that's solved. But then, of course, there's a whole thing of we got to get a new Band-Aid and all this other stuff, and she ends up sleeping in our room. So that was the end of sleeping for me for the night. Despite the comedy of Band-Aid is on her pajama top. So we'll see how that goes. I'm hoping she napped a little today. I don't know, because I've been in the studio. I think she's up now. I can hear them out there, but hoping she got a little bit of rest today, because that's a necessity when they get minimal sleep at night. It's just wild. 4-year-olds and injuries. And like I said, they just, boom. Like, ha, 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 oh! Like, Jesus Christ. And of course, that's a little bit of pot and kettle, because my wife will my wife will tell you. I had a rough morning yesterday. She's like, I don't ever know when you're going to, I'm like, neither do I. I don't know. And sometimes I got minimal sleep last night, and I was already having a bit of a rough couple days mentally. But it's like, neither do I, honey. Never know. All right, let's do some common sense here. We're going over on time. That's okay. We'll be fine here. We got some good common sense this week, I think. First thing I want to talk about is just dripping with common sense, because we all know the January 6th insurrection attempt that occurred. I set the record for F-bombs in the Common Sense Sunday episode that occurred after that. I highly, highly recommend that one, because I mean, not with kids, or if you get offended by the F word, don't. But I highly recommend if you haven't listened to it and you're not offended by the F word, because made a lot of my thoughts truly known during that particular episode. But obviously, people have been caught because they're on video and everything else, and they're finding them and they're bringing them in to face the charges of an attempted insurrection January 6th at the U.S. Capitol there. And we're finding that multiple of these suspects are using the defense of they got caught up in the crowd, and so the crowd just inspired them to go into the Capitol, start breaking down doors, causing a ruckus, sitting at people's desks, sitting at the podium in the Senate, things like that, blaming it on other people. And here is this is how, and I'm just going to keep it simple. Keep it simple here. This is the mentality of the type of people that are going into the Capitol, storming the Capitol, all these things. Because my mother taught me when I was very young, and I'm sure many of your mothers or fathers or grandparents or aunts and uncles, whoever authority figure taught you something similar when you were a kid. There is a saying, if everyone were to jump off a bridge, would you jump off too? That's literally what we're dealing with here. I learned that when I was like 5 or 6. It's pretty young. But here we have adults that don't understand that concept. It also seems like it is not working very well, this caught in the crowd thing. Common sense, like, really? Really? Oh, it's caught up in the crowd. Why are you carrying that that statue around then. I don't know. This other guy was carrying a statue around, so I just carry. No, sir. No. You know, because that's the thing. I will be realistic here and logical. I'm sure there were plenty of people that were in Washington, D.C., there to protest that didn't go into the Capitol. And there may have even been a couple of people that kind of got pushed with a crowd into the Capitol. But once you get in there and you start grabbing shit and sitting in shit, like, no. If you got pushed 2 feet inside the door and you're like, oh, shit, I'm not supposed to, and you leave, okay. One thing. Sitting at desks and shit. Looking for specific politicians. Give me a break. Alex Rodriguez. I'm not an Alex Rodriguez fan here's the thing. That's the one good thing about, I mean, not that there's bad things, so I shouldn't say the one good thing, but that is a good thing, because I really don't care about celebrity couples. But the good thing about Alex Rodriguez, A-Rod, dating Jennifer Lopez, J-Lo, is now people that didn't even know baseball, like, they're like, oh yeah, that dude. So the baseball player, possible Hall of Famer, also commentator on baseball for many people. For the rest of you, Jennifer Lopez's ex-fiance, he's in the news. And this bothers me because I don't dislike him as a human. Just he was a Yankee, and there's a lot of baseball fans are not Alex Rodriguez fans. I've come around a little bit because I enjoy him as a baseball personality on television. But so I still have a little bit of trouble defending him. But I'm gonna step up to the plate. No pun intended. That's the kind of comic genius you get from Common Sense Sundays. Low-hanging fruit. There's nothing wrong with the low-hanging fruit. Feel free to pick the low-hanging fruit, other broadcasters and such out there, comedians and such. But Alex Rodriguez, he's in the news, and I got to defend him. Step up to the plate, defend the guy, because he is promoting a new, and I don't think, this may be a new one, but apparently it's been around for a little while. He is promoting a concealer for men. For those of you that aren't familiar with makeup, it's makeup that you use on your face, and they call it concealer to cover up, certain parts. Not cover up like, not like the eye black that you see on athletes. No, like matches your skin, cover up. If you wear makeup, you know this. If you have a female in your life that wears makeup, you probably know this. But for the rest of you, that's what it is. And he got a lot of flack for it. People were upset and saying it's not manly and all this other stuff to wear makeup. And it was a whole, of course, it pops up on Twitter because people on Twitter have nothing else better to do but make fun of a dude. Which, this is always extra funny to me. The dude's a billionaire. I'm not a Jennifer Lopez fan, but he was engaged to Jennifer Lopez. He has kids. Like, he's quite happy. He really doesn't care what you think about him wearing some concealer. But on the other hand, why do we do this every time? It's concealer. And for those of you out there that are interested in it, it's through Hims, that company Hims, which I have no problem with. I just, with the little bit of sports I watch, I'm kind of tired of being bombarded with stuff that's used to shave your private regions, as well as stuff that's marketed to help you with your private. Like, that's fine. I understand people need it. Do I need a commercial every 15 seconds? No. It's fine. Like, keep yourself. You got to groom. I get it, but I don't need to see it all the time. But it's Hims if you're interested in it, and nothing against Hims. I'm sure it's a great company. I just get bombarded by the ads. And the most important thing is, like, I don't wear makeup. I have worn makeup, not for fun. I've worn it. I've worn it for stuff where makeup artist was on set and I had to wear makeup. And a lot of times it's the powder to keep the shininess down. That I've had the powder quite a few times to keep the shininess down. I don't wear it here in the studio because it's, who cares? But when other people are using my face or my personality, I've had it on. But it's just not for me. Mainly for me personally, it's laziness. I don't like doing a lot of things. Like, I don't like shaving, so I have a beard. It's just extra stuff in my routine is just not for me. And not because I'm too manly for it. I'm just lazy. I'm just too lazy. But respect if that's something you want to do. And do you. Do you. Seriously. Defending Alex Rodriguez and stuff. I don't hate the guy personally. It's one of those fun rivalry, like, are you Yankee? And I mean, even like, I know Seth is going to listen to this when he gets around to it, and Seth is a huge Yankees fan and a huge supporter of the podcast. Even he doesn't really, he's like, I don't really care about it. It's one of those things, you know, you're like, All right, one more thing here in Common Sense. I want to talk about a little bit of white privilege. And you probably didn't know where I was going with this one. The sports aspect of this, again, much with the Alex Rodriguez stuff, is not that important, but you've most likely heard of a gentleman named Tim Tebow. He was a college football player, a professional football player. He was a professional baseball player, and now he is once again trying to become a professional football player. He has not played football in, I think, he hasn't been in a game in like 10 years. He hasn't played on a football team in like 8 years. Just got signed to a contract with the Jacksonville Jaguars down there in Florida. And on top of that, his jersey, like right after he'd signed, shot to number 1 on the jersey sales. I know you're sitting there like, well, Sean, how is this white privilege? This is the epitome of white privilege here. And I also want to throw in on that, with that, anybody that listens to this and you like to pull out the, you can't be religious or Christian these days. You know, people get on you just for being Christian. Tim Tebow is one of the most Christian motherfuckers you will ever see, meet, hear about in your entire life. Okay? And he just walks around and he's like, I think I'm going to try that out again. And they're like, oh, yeah, sure, please. What? And you don't want to hear it. I know you don't. I don't want to say it. Colin fucking Kaepernick never got another shot. And here we have white Christian Tim Tebow who just walks in and he's like, hey guys, I feel like playing football again. And he's not even playing a position that he played in college or the pros. He's for those of you familiar, he was a quarterback and now he's going to play tight end. And in fact, there was an interview with a former quarterback of the New York Jets where Tim Tebow spent some time there. And he came out in an interview, he said, hey, we actually tried to make Tim Tebow a tight end years ago, like 8 years ago or whatever. Didn't work. But yeah, no. He just gets to walk around and do whatever the fuck he wants. It's astounding to me. If you don't sit back and say and see how that is white privilege, nothing else is ever going to convince you. It's just not. And I hate bringing up Kaepernick, but that's what's happening here. He has no business being on a football field right now. None. Not as a player, maybe as a coach or something. No business. Oh, here's a contract. Oh, yeah, come play professional football again. Holy shit. He just does whatever he wants. I can't anymore. I can't. I think I got through the whole episode with no F-bombs until we started talking about Tim fucking Tebow. Tim Tebow. All right, let's move on to some entertainment news. I took a lot of joy out of this one. I really, really, really took a lot of joy out of this one. Strangely, I didn't know this still existed until after the fact, but apparently the MTV Movie Awards happened this past week. I didn't even know they still had those things. I have watched the MTV Movie Awards. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying there's nothing, that's fine. I think I'm a little too old for it now, but didn't even know it was still a thing. But of course, much like they do for all music and film and TV award shows, at some point during the event, they did an in memoriam where they feature people who have passed away over the past year. Usually the past year, but I'm sure there's been exceptions and stuff like that. And what they featured at the MTV Movie Awards was an in memoriam for Ellen DeGeneres' Reign of Terror. And they had the years up there, whatever, to 2021, because she's ending her show this year. And I don't know when the hell the show started. I don't care. That was pretty widely known before it became publicly known. It was pretty widely known to people in the industry. You didn't want to work on the Ellen show. I've been aware of this for a long time. Long time. She comes across great. You don't want to work on that show. I found this just raucously entertaining. Yeah. It's you call it cancel culture. Call it what you want. I think it's good when we get rid of people who don't respect others in the industry and are abusive and have a little reign of terror going. So peace out, Ellen DeGeneres. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. I am not an SNL fan, really. I occasionally watch it. I'll turn it on. Weirdly, last night I actually did turn it on because I was falling asleep. My wife was, I think she was watching the RuPaul's thing. and I'm like doing something else, and then she starts falling asleep. I'm like, let me just throw the TV on, because we're watching it like on, streaming. We got the Android TV. So I actually did happen to watch a little bit of it. Did not see the musical performance. And I know I've said before, mad respect to Lil Nas X. Not a fan myself. It's just not my type of music. But do you? Mad respect. Very creative. And apparently he was the musical guest yesterday on SNL. And apparently, about 2/3 of the way through his song, he went to do a little pole dancing thing, which is featured in his music video, which I'm sure is very epic. It's just not for me. Nothing against it, not for me. But apparently when he went to go get on the pole, he ripped his pants right in the crotch area. So what he had to do was, for like the last third of his song, had to keep himself covered, and apparently used the pole and turned himself a little so that he wasn't going full frontal on network live television. This actually, I didn't have any disrespect. I had respect because it's like, do you? I have even more respect for him now because like I can't imagine. I do a lot of live events. If my pants ripped and I was about to give everyone some full frontal, I'd be like, what? Just puff of smoke. Sean's gone. Suddenly I become a magician. I don't even mean it in a laughing way, but good God, in my line of work, I've spent a lot of my career entertaining children. Jesus Christ, I can't. Like SNL's one thing. At least that's an adult audience. Not for me. So had to cover it up for the rest of the song. Good job, Lil Nas X, and just gonna add that to his like mounting awesomeness that everyone loves. And like I said, I respect him. It's just not my type of music. The Tokyo Olympics. The IOC says it's going to proceed this summer. It's supposed to kick off the end of July. So much blowback on this. And anyone who's listened to Go Tell Us the Wall for a while knows how I feel about the Olympics. I love watching the Olympics. I think it can destroy cities. It's not as good for the economy as they put it out there for you. The IOC, the International Olympic Committee, they're the ones making money. Tons of blowback on this. And I don't see it happening. So we'll see. We'll see. And that's the problem is I know we're having events and stuff, and there's actually crowds at sporting events. Not huge crowds for the most part, but there's crowds. The problem with the Olympics, and this is with Burning Man, international travel all to one place. So you're coming like it's not a sporting event in LA where it's pretty much all people from LA with the team that traveled. Maybe it's that's all localized stuff. So I don't see it happening. Yeah, let's do that. We're out of time, but I got two more things for you. The Crew. That's right, The Crew. Not J. Crew, the fancy clothing store. Does that even still exist? No idea. I don't think I've ever owned anything J. Crew. I just know it's expensive. The Crew. It's a new band with members of Rancid, Pennywise, and Suicidal Tendencies. Well, a member of Pennywise, 2 members of Rancid, 2 members of Suicidal Tendencies. They put out a new single this past week called One Voice. One Voice. They've actually signed on Epitaph. So this is a bit of a super group. That's what they call them. A super group. Signed on Epitaph. And they've put out this single on vinyl. The cool thing about this is proceeds from the sale of the vinyl are going to go to Muzak. MUSACK. This is an organization that gives instruments to educators and students so that they can learn music. So this is pretty awesome. Really happy to see that. The song is pretty good. I'm not a huge Suicidal Tendencies fan. Respect, not a huge fan. I am a big Pennywise and Rancid fan, especially Rancid, obviously. Some Rancid stickers there. Got some Tim figures, over all the Rancid things in here. So I was real excited. I would love to hear more from them. But I will point out that, especially Tim Armstrong likes to do this. He also has a band called The Armstrongs that put out a single and that benefited Gilman Street. He also has a band called The Landfill Crew that put out a 4-song EP and have done nothing since then. So this might just be one song. Who knows? We'll see if this super group goes anywhere. The cool thing is they tend to end up at festivals together. So even if they don't do like full album or tour as a band, we could end up in situations where obviously like Tim Armstrong and Matt Freeman are both in the band. They're both in Rancid. But Fletcher is in Pennywise, and it's Mike Muir from Suicidal Tendencies, and it's got to be the drummer. I don't know all their names, but the drummer from Suicidal Tendencies, based on who else is in the band. Like, oh yeah, got to play drums, and so that'll be interesting to see. Who knows? But it would be fun if there's like a festival going on, and Rancid and Pennywise and Suicidal Tendencies are playing. And I've been to one of those festivals. I've actually multiple times I've seen those 3 bands play at the same festival, and have them come out and do like a song. That'd be pretty cool to see. All right, and last thing I'm going to leave you with this week is is a little shout out. Congratulations, good on you to the great band The Suicide Machines. If you're not familiar with them, their album Destruction by Definition turned 25 years old this week. 25 years they've been at it. And Destruction by Definition, I'd really have to sit down and think about it. But as much as is that what I said? Suicide Machines. Can't have both those bands like back to back. The Suicide Machines, big fan of them. And as much as they're probably not a top 10 band for me personally, Destruction by Definition is probably a top 10 album for me personally. If you're not familiar with that album and you're into punk rock and ska, get your hands on it. It is great start to finish. It's one of those, I don't want to say rare, but it's one of those albums that's just fantastic start to finish. Much like Rancid Let's Go. You're just like, damn, oh my, start to finish. No filler on that particular album. So good on you. Thank you, like, to the Suicide Machines, because I have enjoyed your music for 25 years. Like, literally, because I remember when that album came out. I have enjoyed their music for 25 years. All right. I'm exhausted. Seriously. Too much. Tiny humans keep me awake at night. I don't know how people with like 5 tiny humans do it. It just seems impossible to me. I got 1, and I'm like, sleep is, But because of that, that's going to do it for us this week. Don't forget, we'll be back next week. Same wall place, same wall time. Like I said, we may have some scheduling conflicts coming up because of some other projects that I've recently become involved with. So we'll keep you updated on all that stuff. And to stay updated on all those things, don't forget to like our Facebook page, facebook.com/Go Tell It to the Wall. Of course, our YouTube. Head over to YouTube, search Go Tell Us the Wall, subscribe to our channel. My own personal Instagram account, which is at SoCalSean, SoCalSean. And most importantly would be SeanO'RourkeLive.com. Just bookmark that. That's going to keep you up to date and give you links to everything else, including our Patreon and our merch website. All right, Wall fans, Common Sensors podcast consumers. This has been episode 47 of Common Sense Sundays with Go Tell It to the Wall, hosted by me, your absolute favorite podcast host, the one and only Sean O'Rourke. And remember, Wall fans, Common Sensors, no matter what you do, no matter who you're with, no matter where you go, and no matter why you are doing it, always use common sense.